Let's talk about New York baseball. What the heck happened since the All-Star break? What the heck happened since the All-Star break to the New York Mets and the New York Yankees? Let's get into it. All right, so for most MLB teams, the All-Star break is a much-needed break. It's in the name. It's a great way to get some of these nagging injuries kind of figured out, some rest for the guys who've been on it all year. It's a nice way for guys to go to All-Star game and really take in on how good of a season they're having. It is just all around a good time. Bad teams are trying to figure things out. Good things are trying to maintain and make sure their best players are healthy. And in an ideal world, everyone would benefit coming back. But sometimes that break snaps some mojo, some momentum, something going on that where we see some good luck and some bad luck flip on its head. And that seems to be what happened to these two teams, the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is the biggest differences from half to half for each team. And then we're going to touch on a little bit how New York media can exacerbate or maybe confuse some of these problems and make it a little bit harder to make the adjustments you need to make. It is part of it. We talked about this in the past, but we have some interesting examples in here as well. So first things first, let's talk about performance and let's go team by team, starting with the New York Yankees, okay? Now, I picked out some categories and we're going to talk about where they ranked in the first half and then how those numbers changed in the second half. So, offensively, we know about the New York Yankees and how good of a season Aaron Judge had to start the year. He's still, I think, tied or slightly behind Cal Raleigh in that MVP voting. But here's how the Yankees ranked across the board in all of the different categories in the first half. In hits, they were 6th, runs 3rd, batting average 5th. They were 1st in on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS, 18th in K percentage. Now, they do tend to swing and miss with all that power, but they were 1st in walk percentage, and then 18th in stolen bases. So that's a classic Yankees kind of ranking list, right? They don't have to run a lot because they rely on the extra base hits and the home runs a lot in their park, but also how their lineup is built. They started the season with Aaron Judge having potentially the greatest season ever. They had Trent Grisham going crazy. They had Paul Goldschmidt going crazy. They had Ben Rice going crazy. Austin Wells started strong. Anthony Volpe started strong. Like, they all started strong. Torpedo bats. Jazz Chisholm started. Like, they were doing it, scoring lots of run. But now... Oh, and also they were 1st in home runs in the first half, which also kind of fits into that narrative. Now let's look at where they are at in the second half since the All-Star break. They are 23rd in hits as opposed to 6th. They are 1st in runs. So, they are 24th in batting average. That actually might be wrong, the 1st in runs. That might be a misplay. Somebody in chat tell me. If it is, I'm so sorry, but let's go with it. 1st in runs, 13th in on-base percentage. They're still 6th in slugging. They're still 8th in OPS, but they're now 24th in K percentage. So they're striking out more. They're walking a lot though. They're still 2nd, but they are now 3rd in stolen bases. So suddenly they're stealing, but not getting close to the number of hits, and a lot of guys are struggling. Their offensive prowess has fallen off. We had an injury to Aaron Judge and his elbow that has not helped him swing. He's regressed quite a bit, though he's still having an incredible year. He is not what he was doing in the first half. And so their offense has definitely taken a step back, right? And a lot of the flack goes to the offense. So we talk a lot about how the offense doesn't get the job done because for better or for worse, yeah, sure, relief pitchers don't get a lot of love for sucking, but when it comes to overarching narratives, when the team struggles for a long period of time, that ire usually goes to position players, even if they haven't regressed as much as it may seem like they have, which you're going to see a theme here, especially when we get to the Mets. So let's talk a little bit about the pitching. So in the first half, here's how the Yankees pitching lined up, right? We have in ERA, they were 13th overall. In WHIP, they were 6th. In earned runs, they were 11th. In K percent, they were 4th. OPS, they were 2nd. Home runs, they were 13th. And walk percentage, they were 23rd. So They had a walk problem, but they limited contact. And this was everybody. Fried was insane. Rodon was insane. The bullpen with all their funky changeups with the Al Leiters and the Fernando Cruzes of the world. They just weren't giving up hard contact. And they were doing a good job of limiting a lot of this damage, right? They were doing a solid job. And they were actually first in blown saves, believe it or not, even with Devin Williams. Even with Devin Williams, they were first in blown saves. Okay? Things have changed. Things have changed. Okay, let's talk about second half. Second half, ERA, they are 20th. WHIP, they are 25th. Earned runs, they're 22nd. K percent, 15th. OPS, 23rd. Home runs allowed, 10th. And walk percentage is the worst, 30. They are walking the most percentage of hitters of any pitching staff in the league. You can't do that in Yankee Stadium and win lots of games. So if they're scoring tons of runs, they're giving up more. And that is what it comes down to. It's a pitching problem. Max Fried has struggled. Rodon has kind of leveled off a little bit. Devin Williams is just like all over the place, right? We got a Weaver. He was started absolutely insane. He's given up a lot more as of late. We know Jake Bird came over, immediately was sent down. Bednar threw pretty well at the beginning. Duvall did okay, but hasn't been great. They traded for all these guys. They have not panned out as well. That's kind of the truth for both sides. But their pitching was kind of middle of the road before and limited damage. Now they're not limiting damage as well, and they're well below average. They're in the bottom 10 in 6 of those 8 categories. That might be your issue. So they were first in blown saves in the first half. They are now last in blown saves in the second. So it's not about just the struggle itself. It's about when the struggling is happening. And unfortunately, it's in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And that is something those were the gaps they supposedly had filled at the half, or at the deadline rather. And it just has not manifested in that way yet. So if they can close off that leak at the back end, though, things can turn around in a big way. They have played generally better. It's not a free fall. Same thing with the Mets. They both played a little bit better lately, but they're kind of just holding that 10 game over 500, and they're both kind of far behind the leaders of their division now. The Yankees are in third, right? They're just trying to make sure they get into the playoffs, let alone win the division. So Yankees, maybe in the first half their offense was working exactly the way that it's built. And that has fallen off a little bit in the second half with a couple of guys regressing, like Trent Grisham and Anthony Volpe. That combined with a very leaky bullpen where the clutch moments are just not happening for a stretch of time for about a month there is culminating into, even when we do hit and we do score a lot of runs, we still aren't preventing enough. And timing's really bad. You layer in the media on top of that, which we will talk about at the end. You have what we're seeing. Now, what about the Mets? Let's talk a little bit about their struggles, okay? Now, we know Pete Alonso, though lately has been raking, and it's great to see, but for the last 2 months or so, he has had possibly the worst 2-month stretch of his career after starting really strong for the first 2 months. So, he has fallen off quite a bit, but he seems to have righted the ship. It's funny, Juan Soto has actually been playing really well over the last 8 weeks or so. And it's been kind of hidden by their struggles as a team. But you're going to see a lot of really interesting correlations between them and the Yankees. So let's talk about their first half versus their second half. This is them in the first half offensively, okay? Hits, they rank 19th. Runs, 14th. Batting average, 20th. On-base percentage, 12th. Slugging, 9th. OPS, 8th. K percent, 11th. Walk percent, 5th, and stolen bases 11th. All of those things are fine, right? We thought that they were underperforming because how good they were on paper, especially with how good Pete was playing too. You're like, why isn't this kind of coalescing? But we've had, Francisco Lindor with a broken foot all year. That's going to limit, like I mentioned, everything about Kyle Tucker earlier. That's going to limit your ability to, be at your MVP style heights. Even though he has been great defensively, he has been a little bit limited. Anyone who's watched him regularly, I think, knows what I'm talking about there. He is as good as he can be, but it's not, the ceiling isn't quite as high with that bum wheel, okay? So that's a solid That's an okay offense, and they were very much carried by their pitching, namely like Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill. These guys came out hot after the injuries to Manaea and Frankie Montas. Like they were like, oh, what we're going to do with our starting rotation? And David Peterson's been incredible, and these guys have all pitched out of their minds. Now, after the first half, those things changed. We're going to talk about that in a second.
FT fam, welcome to the world's most comfortable swimwear. For a moment, we are talking about Fair Harbor. We actually have some show and tell today. This is the liner that you're working with inside of the shorts and the bathing suits.
You know what the best part is about this, Scott?
What?
They have a lot of different options because these are clearly yours because I would never order this pattern, but
that
they
is
look
so
great
me.
on you.
That is so me.
These are so you. Mine are a little bit more plain than this.
Yes.
But they are super comfortable. The liner, I love liner shorts. Some people don't. But these liners are better than most that I've had on, if not all of them.
Yeah, this is the best liner out there.
No mesh. All of the above is perfect.
Exactly. It's really good. You got to give it a shot. Also, fun random fact, you get a new shirt. It smells really good. So head to fairharborclothing.com/FAL and use code FAL for 20% off your first purchase. Once again, Fair Harbor, HARBOR clothing.com/FOUL for 20% off your first purchase and use that promo code FAL so they know FT sent you.
But here's where the offense is in the second half. And like I mentioned, they went 5-16 after winning 4 of the last 5. So they were struggling hard. But in the second half, they are 8th in hits, 9th in runs, 8th in batting average, 4th in on-base percentage, 7th in slugging, 5th in OPS, K percent 7th, walk percent 4th, and stolen base 4th. They are top 10 in every single one of those categories. Their offense is way better than it was in the first half, yet they can't win games. And what do they always say in every baseball movie and in every single baseball show you've ever seen? Pitching wins championships and it also loses them. And so this seems to me to be a pitching problem. Another cool thing about the Mets, in the first half, they were 3rd in exit velo as a team. Second half, 2nd. So they've been hitting the ball really hard the whole time. And in the second half, it looks like a lot more of that has been cleaned up. They have been chasing a little bit less. They've been walking a little bit more, and they're getting more luck with that exit velo. So they were basically unlucky as an offense, a little bit on the unlucky side of the offense. Some of that stuff has corrected, and then some of the guys have also played better and hit better. That combined makes you a top 10 offense, even though not a lot has changed. So that's good. Mets fans should be excited about that because if you can just turn around that pitching a little bit, we'll be ready to go. All right, so let's talk about the pitching side. Here's where the Mets rank in the first half and all the pitching, okay? First half, they ranked 19 in hits. They gave a lot. So there's a theme here. Lot of base runners, but not a lot of runs, okay? 19th in hits, 14th in runs, 20th in batting average, but 12th in on base, 9th in slug, 8th in OPS, 11th in K percent, but 5th in walk percent, and 11th in allowing stolen bases. I think I just said all the hitting stuff again. I'm going to go right back. I just read the wrong stuff. I'm so sorry. Let's do this one more time. Okay. Rewinding. Oh, my God. Here's the Mets. Here's the Mets pitching. Okay. An ERA, 5th. This is first half. WHIP, 19th. A lot of runners. Earned runs, 4th. K percent, 12th. Walk percent, 27th. OPS, 9th. And home runs allowed, 1st. So what I'm hearing is walking a lot of guys and allowing a lot of base runners with WHIP. So 27th and 19th ranking those. A lot of guys are on base, but they're stranding them. So there's a little bit of luck involved, especially because their strikeout rate was 12th. It's not like they were striking everybody out either. They were getting good defense behind them, and they were getting lucky, hard hit balls at people for the most part. That stuff might regress. It might not, but it's usually a red flag. And unfortunately, if we go look at the second half, a lot of the other numbers started to inflate, but those stayed the same. So in the second half, They were 5th in the first half in ERA. They are now 23rd. Then they went 21st in WHIP, still too high. Earned runs went from 4th to 19th. So a lot of those guys on base started scoring. K percent went from 12th to 16th. They were striking out less guys. They actually improved their walk percent from 26th, 7th overall to 21st. OPS was 18th as opposed to 9th in the first half, and now they're 4th in home runs allowed instead of 1st. So everything else regressed. They dropped down the list on every other group, but they still allowed the same amount of base runners. When that happens, you're going to give up a ton of runs. So the offense has improved, but the pitching has kind of come down to earth so hard that the offense can't stay ahead of that. But some of these young guys, Nolan McLean, we got that the young buck coming up and getting his debut, I believe, tonight, which I kind of want to check out. He looks amazing. If these guys can be the Tyler McGill of what he was in 2022, this could be big. This could be big. And I think they got some hope on the horizon. But the talent is up here. The ceiling is here. We just need guys to get hot at the right time because the offense is locked in. So, in conclusion, their pitching overperformed in the first half. It came back down to earth in second, and their hitting got a little more lucky, but the balance there went a little too heavy to the poor pitching performances, and that is why we are where we are. So, there is one other element feeding this fire of, oh God, everything's burning around us. This is the worst thing ever, and that is media. So, 3 examples of New York media and why I love it so much. First things first. This is super interesting. Brandon Tierney and co-host Sal Licata, WFan, my guys over at WFan, were discussing Juan Soto earlier this month, specifically around whether or not the Yankees are missing having him as they deal with the struggles of their own. And basically what Brandon Tierney said was, I think there's a good chance he's not 26. And he's talking about Juan Soto. So, I don't think that's true. I mean, he's been in the major leagues for 7 years. That can take it out of you. Okay, I can't prove it, but while I don't know for sure, I think there's a good chance he's not 26. I'll say it. That's the nature of sports commentary, guys. That's the nature of hot takes, and that's the nature of getting a clip picked up, put it on TikTok, and getting 1 million views. Frankly, it's just that way. And that is sometimes the motivation because there's really not any consequences, right? Which, you know, it's a throwaway. It feels like a throwaway, a little bit out of pocket, but I'm not going to judge at all because I don't do their job and I don't need to. I have a YouTube. This is YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? That said, that's an interesting take. But that's the type of thing that you're like, those are types of questions that you'll be asked in a post-game interview. You'll be like, do you think Juan is actually 26? And then you have to, as a serious adult, say, no, like he is what? I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? So we had the rat and raccoon thing when I was there. I had to answer questions. I was answering questions about that 7 months later. So it is just kind of part of the deal. And that could make focusing on what you're doing out there a little bit tough to do when you have to treat those questions as if like they actually need to be answered. Additionally, Anthony Volpe has been getting absolutely decimated by the beat writers in the Yankees media. He's been benched. He's been blamed for a lot of things. He is second in the league with 17 errors. He has made some very key errors this year. So going from Gold Glove to being second highest error total is not great. He's also won for his last 32 and he's really struggling. You can tell he's really struggling. He seems to feel it. But basically, everyone's talking about like how long until Anthony Volpe is going to be benched. And when you have a clock start in the back of your head and start ticking, and you are in the biggest market in the world, it makes taking a step back and being patient with your own development very hard to do. An extreme example of this is like Joey Gallo, right? He just could not like even get started. I'm not saying everyone is that, but that's the extreme version. But there is an element of like when every single thing that anyone says, you just think that you look around, you think everyone's thinking, when are we going to get rid of this guy? It's really hard to have confidence there. So I feel for him. But when you're threatened, it's hard to really commit, if that makes sense. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about is Aaron Boone making comments Also on the W fan about how Aaron Judge wouldn't be making throws like he normally would. Aaron Judge then said, I don't know why he said that. I'm good to go. And talking about his elbow and his elbow injury. I can throw the ball. On its face, that's just miscommunication. It is what it objectively doesn't matter, but it does highlight something very specifically. Sometimes it's just about the idea that they don't talk to each other and there might be some conflict there, and not about the what is actually happening and is his elbow okay. You notice this story isn't about Aaron Judge and whether or not he can throw the ball. It's about whether or not there's drama in the clubhouse. And that is the part that you're constantly wasting energy on and can be very frustrating. And that's why we see him slap the table every once a month, right? It almost comes down to, it's not about the poor play anymore, or poor play and just not executing isn't a good enough answer. There has to be something else, some conspiracy going on behind the scenes, because there's no way just losing isn't what's happening, because we have 28 rings. 27 rings? 28 rings? We have a lot of rings. So that is part of playing there. It is what it is. They shouldn't change. They should do whatever they want. You should just know that going forward. But it is interesting how this stuff happens, and this is the way I see it. I just think it's just an interesting, different type of beast. But if you can wrangle that beast, my God, is it a great place to be, great place to play, and the food's awesome. So that's me explaining. That's what has happened in New York, and that is how these two teams have kind of fallen off a little bit. But fortunately, they're both playing a little bit better, and with better play comes a little bit easier media landscape to deal with.